It'd be on admitting people quietly.
Yeah, they should pop in. Yeah, we're seeing people pop in. Hello, everybody. This is so exciting. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Registration 101. We are kind of rolling. We will talk about all things, registration. I'm going to let David kind of give us a little intro here. Go ahead, David.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, my name is David Grocott. I'm sure many of you we may have met in the past. If I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, hello. I'm the general manager over at Napa UK, just outside of London. And yeah, my son has been going to Napa. Principally, we used to take him to Boston. We started going there 2018. And yeah, he's now 9 and he loves Napa. We all love Napa, going along for intensives. But trying to make sure that we can get into an intensive, trying to make sure that we can register and all of those sorts of things has always been something that we want to try to make as smooth as humanly possible. And so we're going through this new phase at the moment where we're looking at Ocean Friends, which is our new operating system for registrations, actually for so many different things. And it's great. It's a really wonderful and exciting opportunity. It brings together an awful lot of our pre-existing systems, and the plan is that this will absolutely smooth that process. So I'm excited about this, obviously, in my capacity working for Napa. I think it's going to be a very cool thing with my day-to-day and helping more families to get involved. I have to confess, I'm quite excited about it as a parent as well, making sure that I can get my my little one in smoothly. With me this evening, just above me and below me, just here, I've got 2 of my amazing colleagues from the Parent Experience team. 2 leading lights of that team. We've got Sarah Ross and Lou Con. Sarah, you're in the States. Lou, you're down under in Australia. These guys have been working incredibly hard, making sure that this system is going to be tailored to parents' needs. They're going to be telling us all about it this evening. I'm going to try to sit on the Q&A tab, and if you've got any questions, please put those in there, and I'll try to hoop those together so that we can get some good answers for you. But Sarah, I think you're going to take up the story from there.
Yeah, let's take it away. So we're going to focus on registration tonight, like David mentioned, kind of registration specifically through Ocean Friends, because this is new. So whether you're a new or returning family, this is kind of like A to Z what you need to know. So let's slide into first what registration is. So registration for us is a period where all of our families can kind of put in requests for specific sessions in the following year or in that same year if we are kind of registering for that period. But ours is, you're submitting a request in, you're planning kind of which sessions you guys want to request, dates, locations, all that things. And then we'll do our best to schedule as many families within those sessions as we can based on those registration requests. Now, once upon a time, if you're a returning family, we used to do first come, first serve. Very stressful, very crazy, very wild. So we've moved into a lottery system that is a rolling registration, right? So this way it's a little easier. You can kind of we've broken the year up into little smaller chunks where you guys can plan ahead, but you're not planning so far in advance that like if something changes in life, right? If you move, if job schedules change, school schedules change, that you're not making these match shifts and having to cancel your intensive and so on and so forth. So hopefully this rolling registration with our lottery system is a lot easier this round. And like David mentioned, we're going to be doing it all through Ocean Friends, which is our patient portal. So hopefully you have a one-stop shop where you can see everything from your recommendations to sessions to all that good stuff, and then you can actually register. So let's hop right into kind of our enrollment periods. So our registration is broken up into 3 periods. Now, our first one is coming up very soon, which is why we wanted to host this webinar. It is starting on Monday, July 27th and going through August 2nd. Now, that is for us covering the sessions from January through April of 2027. So in those chunks of sessions, we'll host this registration period, this 1 week, where everyone can submit their registration request forms through our Ocean Friends site, which we'll show you in a few minutes how to do that. And you guys can give us your preferences, right? So we're going to be looking for which sessions you're interested in. If your kiddo works best with a break, if your kiddo works best in the morning, in the afternoon. And we're going to kind of work through all of those in kind of a big chunk for January through April of 2027. Now, if January through April 2027 is tough for you, then we've got the next period will be our April through August 2027 sessions, and that will open November 2nd to November 8th. Now, the process is the same. We're just hosting it a little bit later so that you can kind of plan your life a little closer to when those sessions are actually happening, which hopefully will be a little help to our families and a little help to the team, and we can hopefully get as many families as possible in all of these periods. Now, enrollment period 3 is happening in 2027 for the remainder of 2027. So March 1st to March 7th of 2027, we've got our September through December of 2027 sessions. Again, trying to kind of inch closer to those actual dates so you guys can plan accordingly. Now, all of this information is, of course, in this webinar, but it's also on our website. We've got an intensive registration page on every website, UK, Australia, and US. So you guys can always access these dates along with the schedule for those sessions that are through January through April, April through August, and of course, September through December of 2027. Now, I know it feels probably a little far away for some of you for November to kind of plan for summer, because I know summer are big sessions. It is coming up quick. So if you guys are kind of waiting for those summer periods in the US, UK, it is coming faster than you think, and I'm sure. And Lou, thank you so much. We've got our Australian dates in there because she's got, of course, they're a day ahead. So they are 28th of July this coming Tuesday for the US, or Tuesday for you guys, and then Monday for us. Yeah, thank you so much. Whew, time zone, hardest part of this job, I tell you. So we've got our enrollment period 1. So these are our start times. So we've got July 27th. It is at 8 a.m. Pacific time for the US. July 28th for Australia, 8 a.m. AEST. And then, of course, for the UK, July 28th, 8 a.m. British summertime. Is it summertime? British summertime, it's called. Yeah, woohoo.
Always summertime.
Always summertime. Yeah, London, always summertime. Now, they will, of course, last the full week. They end right before midnight on that Sunday. So just be aware, you want to make sure you get your form in before that Sunday. Now, one critical piece of this is you've got to be able to log into Ocean Friends. So in order to register, you will need to fill out our intake if you haven't already. And our intake is all done through our website. So there is an interest form that you would select on our website. It's the Getting Started page. And then you click that, you'll get an email with our intake link. And once you fill out that intake, you have access to Ocean Friends. So let's kind of cross over into Ocean Friends. Our Ocean Friends portal is our new patient portal. Across the globe for all regions, it is your intensive hub. So you can see right down here in this little taskbar, it's a little tiny, but this blue highlighted, it looks like a little medal, like an Olympic medal almost. And it is our intensive kind of go-to spot. So it has everything 2026, 2027, any sessions that you're currently registered for, waitlist for, requested, any waitlists you're on, et cetera, et cetera. All of that intensive information is located right in your phone app. So it's an app, it's a website, it is called Ocean Friends. So if you go searching for Napa, you won't find it. You're going to want to search for Ocean Friends in the Apple Store or the Microsoft Play Store. Download that app. Now, you will only have access once you complete your intake. So if you've already completed it, you should be able to log in with your phone number, and then it will have you verify your kiddo's last name and date of birth. Now, once you're in, there are quite a few tabs that are in there, but that intensive medal for us is going to be your intensive go-to, your hub, right, for all intensive related information. And this is what your intensive screen is going to look for, and that's that little medal that we're looking at right there, highlighted in blue in the bottom. Now, this is a lot of information in a little spot. So you feel free to go onto your desktop and go to oceanfriends.ai, and you can log in the same way there with your phone number. You'll still have to verify your kiddo's last name and date of birth. Now, again, this is only after you've completed the full intake. Now, the full intake is a little bit lengthy. It's going to ask you a ton of information, birth history, medical history, therapy history. It's a lot of info. And there's kind of 2 forms to get there. So I just want to make sure nobody gets confused about which form is which. There's the interest form, which is just a few questions kind of starting your profile. And your intake form is much more extensive and completes your profile. And that's what you'll need to complete in order to get access to Ocean Friends. But once you're in here, we've got our 2026 sessions, our 2027 sessions, and that 2027 session tab is where you'll be able to see all of the sessions for 2027. And there will currently, until registration opens for each session, be a little spot that tells you the date that registration opens. So you'll note, this one says available to enroll July 27th, 2026. Now, once it's open, we will have our little enroll now form up at the top right of that screen turn bright blue. And once that's open, you will be able to hop in there, click that enroll now form, and it's going to ask you for your preferences. So number one, which sessions are you interested in? And you will be able to select multiple in there. It'll be kind of a multi-click spot. You'll be able to give us your break preferences, your kiddos' start time preferences. Now, we do our best to meet preferences when we can. We can't guarantee that all of these preferences can be met because, of course, we are trying to schedule quite a few kiddos in every single session. So we'll do our best to meet as much as we can for all of our families, but just so you know, those preferences, we try our best. And hopefully we'll be able to meet as many as we can for as many of those families that we can, of course. But you can put any information in there about your kiddo that might be helpful with scheduling. There is a comment box all the way at the bottom. So you can pop in there and put in, if your son or daughter has a nap schedule that's pretty particular or a feeding schedule, always helpful to put that in there. As much information as we can give our schedulers, the better. But again, they're just really preferences that we try to meet if we can. We can't always meet every single one. So thank you again for your flexibility, your patience, your understanding ahead of time. That's always kind. Now in Ocean Friends, we'll have that enrollment period. It'll end on a Sunday. Now we've got quite a bit of work that happens after that Sunday, right? Because our teams then need to go through and schedule. So we will have the enrollment period will end. We'll spend like the following week kind of creating those schedules, putting as many kiddos into as many sessions as we can during that enrollment period. And then we'll start to send invites out that following week. So August 10th. Invites to sessions and waitlists kind of start going out. And you will get those via email and they will come out, as the teams go through, it should be like a big bulk that they'll come out. So generally around, I think noonish, we try to get them out in the US. UK and Australia, you guys will vary a little bit from us, but we try to kind of get out as many as we can, as quickly as we can. So that way, if you have registered for multiple sessions, you're finding out about them kind of in a similar time range. You're not like finding out, from one on Tuesday and one on Monday, if that makes sense. But it's very helpful because then you'll start to see those invitations roll through. Now, you tend to have a short amount of time to accept that invitation because we are trying to get as many families in as possible. So I would, on August 10th, just be on your email kind of hawking a little bit. And I would make sure that you've got those invites set. Now you can see those invitations. I'm just going to scroll back to one of these slides. So up here, you've got your 2026 session, 2027 session, and then My Sessions. As your invites come through, that My Sessions tab within Ocean Friends will start to populate with those sessions. And you'll be able to see statuses like invited, like waitlist, all those things. So you'll be able to see them there and you'll be able to action them straight from there. And again, this is kind of your one-stop shop for all things intensive. So we are looking to really give you a very smooth experience, hopefully, right? You're able to fill out the form. A week after that registration closes, you're able to come back in the app and then you're able to accept those invitations if you get invited, see any sessions you're on the wait list for. If any changes have happened and that session won't work for you, you're going to be able to request other sessions on there as well. So really, hopefully a seamless-ish experience. Now, what's nice in Ocean Friends as well is if you run into any questions, there is a messaging tab. And right to the left of that little metal icon, you've got a message tab, looks like a little, thought bubble. And you can message the clinic directly. So you could, pop in there and just check in. You could say, hey, unfortunately, I can't do this session, but if there's any available in this session, happy to swap over. But any communication you do with the clinic, you can all do it within the app, which is very nice. So hopefully it's just a single point that you can kind of do all your intensive action through.
And Sarah, is it worth mentioning just about the functionality for how many people at the clinic can write back as well? Because I think that's a lovely feature that we've got.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah. So with our messaging, the entire front staff gets all your messages. So hopefully your responses will be quick because you're kind of getting all eyes on it. So it won't just be that you're you're emailing one person, they might be out, they might be this, they might be that, which if any of you have emailed me, you know, I am not the fastest on my email. So that is not a problem in here because you can message directly and then you have multiple people getting eyes on it, which is a fantastic feature, I think. And thank you, David. Yeah, I think it's a great email. And if I have been late on your email, I apologize very much. I'm so sorry. We're getting better at it in 2026, end of 2026. We're getting better. Now, once we send you an invite, if you guys are able to accept the request, that kind of starts a little bit of a domino of things. So we will start to send out for families that have accepted a couple different things. So in the UK and the US, you will likely get $1,000 invoice for deposit. Now in the UK, you guys send full invoices, and then $1,000 is due on that invoice in order to secure that spot and really confirm it and hold it. In the US, we just send out a single $1,000 deposit. And again, only after you've accepted the session, the $1,000 deposit. Now for the US, these are non-refundable deposits. So they are kept on your account for future if for whatever reason you have to cancel. And there are some cancellation fees included in that. And again, that's all on the information that you either get from me if we do a discovery session call or a connection call. And it's also on our website, and it's all in all the emails that we send out. And I think we send quite a bit of information in a lot of our emails. So please definitely read through all of those emails we send out as you go through the registration process. So read your invite totally, any confirmation email you get after you pay that $1,000. Read through entirely, all very important information, at least I think. But I know your time is valuable, so I understand not wanting to, or not having the time always to read all the information. So if you have any questions, utilize that message tab. We are happy to help you out with anything you might need. Yeah, go David.
Sorry, just to
That's
clarify.
okay. No, it's helpful.
We're sticking with pounds over here.
Yes, pounds. Yes, forgive me. Yeah, I get stuck in the dollar. Yes, thank you very much. We're not switching. The UK, the entire UK is not switching to the US dollar. So don't worry. Yeah. And then in Australia, depending on your funding source with NDIS, you may get a deposit or you may get just a due service agreement to sign and confirm. And Lou, correct me if I'm wrong there. Feel free, because I am not the NDIS expert in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. So for depending on how your plan is managed in NDIS, that will trigger the process from there. So the service agreement will be the first step, and from there we'll work with you in terms of working with your plan manager, or if you're self-managed, what the process is going to be for a deposit setup. And the team will be able to kind of work within the different programs that you need. And we can also process, in some cases, Medicare funding, and in some cases, private health as well to go towards the intensive. So lots that we can work with you individually on that one.
Yes, and I'd say that's the case for all regions. If you have any questions around funding, please reach out, because we do have a number of resources that we can provide and kind of help you through. I know in the US, we are big with Support Now, and Support Now is a fantastic kind of funding organization. They keep a grant list going and active, and they have some crowdfunding resources. So we have quite a few of those across the region. So if you do have any questions, or you really want to do an intensive and funding is a bit of a barrier for you, please chat with us. It's always so helpful, I think, for us to kind of walk you through that, because we really want to make sure that your kiddos get the care that they need, and we will help in any way we can kind of make that happen. So hopefully we can avoid having cost as a major barrier for you, and work with you however we can. David, anything to add from the UK side on that one?
Yeah, no, I mean, listening to Lou and yourself there from Australia and the US, obviously we think about how things are in the UK, and I think there's much to improve over here. But whether it be insurance, whether it be an EHCP, whether it be through Just for Children or other charitable sources, then we're getting quite a lot of experience here at NAPA UK in working with those different providers. And similarly, we'll move heaven and high water to make sure that we can do everything for you. So if you're unsure about any aspect of that, please do get in touch. And any bit of experience that we have, we're very happy to share with you and work with you.
Yes, I love that. Now, one of the big things we've seen is we just want to make sure that everybody can get into Ocean Friends, has their intake completed, and that way we can get you guys ready for registration scheduling. So if you haven't yet, I highly recommend you hop into Ocean Friends app. Even currently, feel free to take out your phone if you're in a safe spot to do so. See if you can log in. Katie, if you wouldn't mind, we've got a background friend here, Katie, helping us out from the LA clinic. Would you be able to pop that Jotform link into the Q&A or the chat? So that way they can fill out that form if they have any access issues.
Definitely.
Wicked. And of course, we want to make sure that you guys have a very smooth experience. So I highly recommend you guys try to do that just before registration. Now is a perfect time because you can click that link and fill it out if you have any trouble. But we want to make sure come, Monday morning at 8 a.m. Not that you have to hop in at Monday morning at 8 a.m. because you all are very busy. But throughout that week, whenever you choose to log in, you have just an easy entry. You'll be able to hop in, click, and then register, no problem at all. So highly recommend you do that ahead of time if you are able, and then let us know. The form you fill out, you should get a response within 24 hours of just a fix. So that way we can make sure you are in and ready to go. And I'm just going to check that Q&A, see if we've got any questions so far. Easy. All right. So hopefully that means I'm speaking clearly. I don't know. I can never tell, but all right. Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you, Katie, very much. So there's a link in the chat for everybody. So if you have any access issues, please feel free to pop in there, fill out the form. It does have a spot where you can include attachments if you have run into a problem with a screenshot or anything. Oh, we've got a good question in there. Yes. All right. Yeah. So if you guys are doing weeklies currently in the UK, US, or Australia clinics, if you have a therapist preference, I would definitely recommend you pop that in the chat. I think Australia, David, you guys try to match with your weekly therapist if they're doing weeklies, or do you try to kind of hop outside to get new eyes? Or mix of both?
Well, if I take that from the UK, first of all, we try to, as you said earlier, we kind of work on the mantra that if we can say yes, why would we not? And so we will always try to meet requests. I think that there is wisdom in that continuity. There is also, we know, wisdom in new eyes. So yeah, we'll work with, we like to say that we can meet requests. Can't always promise, unfortunately, just because of the way that things fall. But yeah, we'll always try.
All right. Yeah. So comment box is a perfect spot. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, just we noted that also that all the information that your child already has with NAPA is always shared across the team. They do a lot of work before an intensive program in terms of really closing the gaps in terms of information, sharing the things that they've been working on, say in weekly services as well, if we can't always match the team. So there's a lot of information and planning that goes in beforehand in any intensive. So, and you will be also really part of that process in terms of forming those goals, looking at updating information, which is also the upside of Ocean Friends, is you can update information for us about what else is going on in their lives, whether that's from the teacher and yourselves or anyone else involved in their process. So in terms of that real information building around an intensive program and the therapist knowing what's going on, a lot of that does happen in the work up to it so that the team are ready to go on arrival.
I love that. Yeah. And that happens across all the clinics too. UK, US, Australia, that's everybody. I love that. Oh, Clive, US insurance. Let me tell you, it's a wild ride. It's a wild ride. Although I hear NDIS is wild too at the moment. So you guys I'm so sorry. Yes. So generally we can get 1 hour of PT, 1 hour of OT, and 1 hour of speech allowed through your insurance per day. But each insurance plan is different. So how much your deductible, co-insurance, copay, all of that will just vary depending on your plan. But there is a spot on your intake when you fill it out, if you haven't already, to put your insurance cards. And if you've already filled it out and put your insurance cards, we can definitely run it and kind of give you a better idea of what that cost would be. But each US clinic takes different insurance. So we generally will bill out of network to most, but we are in network with different insurances in each clinic. So, and if you like, I'm happy to connect with you via email and we kind of chat through what your specific insurance would be and what that would look like for sure. But yes, we do take insurance in the US clinics. That's a good one. We got some really great chat questions. So if you guys are okay, we can kind of go through this one. David, you want to take the 1 week intensive one from Iris?
Let's see. So if you sign up for a 1 week intensive, can the goals be set beforehand? Certainly in the UK, then yeah, we would welcome that dialogue ahead of time. And we, to Lou's point, I mean, we spend a very long time as a team thinking about making sure that we're all lined up ahead of time. I think that certainly over here, we make sure absolutely that we are led by parents, and the family as a whole, thinking about what those targets might be and how that aligns with the sessions that are going to be booked. So yeah, would be my answer. Lou, Sarah, is that the same in your territories?
Go ahead, Lou.
Absolutely, yeah. So we definitely make sure that we'll be asking you also for your goals, which are really helpful for the team. So, but you can also send them in at any time as well to the administration team. So, it's really worth having a good think about it, particularly for the 1 week ones where we want to get going pretty fast. But also with those 1 week ones, they will have a less of a bandwidth, I guess, to be able to look at multiple goals across that week. That's where our 3 week programs can work across more goals. Your 1 week one is where you really are doing the deepest of the deep dive, and or you're really just touching base on those goals as well. So really think carefully about those goals and the structure. If it's sort of like we'd really love our child to be able to ride a bike better or something, as an example, then that's a really good goal to maybe look at over a week. If we're doing big deep dives into speech systems, that may be something that you want to look at across a 3 week process.
Love that. In the US, I'll warn you, we have quite a few holidays that fall into those 1 weekers. So a 5-dayer likely will turn into a 4-dayer. So we tend to recommend those for boosters in the US just because it is such a short amount of time. So it's very helpful if we've seen you for a 3-weeker prior, because just 1 week is not a long time for kind of us to get to know you, you get to know us, and then us to make some progress, because that holiday just tends to stick in there. So I know the US has a good number of them. So sorry.
And can
Adriana,
I jump in on this? Sometimes our
yeah.
1 weekers will also have a camp system, particularly in Australia. We've been doing that, and we might be running a school readiness camp or other sort of fun things for the kids as well. So keep your eyeballs across the social media platforms and stuff, because that's where we'll be advertising those really unique and really fun programs through the year.
I love that. Katie, could you drop the links to the socials in there for us, if you wouldn't mind? Wicked. Thank you. And Adriana asked, can we register at any time during that week so you don't need to rush and register first thing since it's a lottery system? Yes, absolutely. We very well remember the old stressful first come, first serve times, and we're over it. We're done. So now anytime in that week, it is all the same. So pop in there anytime. I would recommend, especially if it's the first time you're logging in or first time you're registering, try to do it between Monday to Friday. That way, if you run into any problems, you have someone at Napa that you can give a call to your local clinic or shoot an email, and we will answer you in time. So first timers, I would say if you can, between Monday and Friday, try to hop in there. If you're able. If you can't and Saturday, Sunday comes around, I would still shoot an email out. And if you have trouble with Ocean Friends in particular, we have an email address, and I likely will be checking it very regularly throughout that week. I mean, I definitely will, but also probably Saturday, Sunday. And that's oceanfriends@napacenter.org. So you should get a response from me on there if you run into any problems with like actually logging in or filling out that Enroll Now form. Oceanfriends@napacenter.org, and I will hopefully be able to help you out. And then, Iris has an NDIS question. How about that, Lou? You want to take that one? Just let me. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm trying to find. Oh, we've got all the questions in here. So with NDIS, it's basically NDIS is processes us through the capacity building budgets. So it won't matter whether you're doing an intensive or your weekly stuff. It all comes out of the same budget. So it's really helpful if you can have a look at your overall total that you have in your capacity building budget, and then work out how that can work across that time. During an intensive period, we typically say it's great that you don't go to your sort of normal weekly therapy, because it's a lot for the kids and a lot for you to juggle, but also it means that you're not doubling up. And so there's a focus period for the intensive, and then you go back to your normal weekly program, and that could be with NAPA or your local therapist. So typically there isn't a double up. What is really helpful though is to really be very clear about the goals and where your different, say, occupational therapists strengths lie. So you may look at using NAPA for a different goal focus, or we can collaborate with your local therapist or with obviously across the NAPA team in terms of making sure that all those goals are working towards what your NDIS overview is as well.
So Alex is asking, how many intensives are we able to apply for? Is it best to apply for multiple to increase chances? Alex, I would say apply for the ones that work for your schedule. So I think we do have some families that get tempted to just apply for everything. And then when the invite comes out, it's just not something that would have worked for them. So I would say focus on the ones that really work for your family so that if you do get an invite, you know, the yes is a little easier to take versus having to then check your schedule again, would be my suggestion there. But yeah, definitely apply for as many that fit.
That also ties up with the next question from Stacey as well, though, doesn't it? About how much time between intensives. And we work to the basis, and principally, in my mind, it's always, Lou, Sarah, you can tell me there's a more complex reason, but I just think it's about the fatigue of the kids. That they, between these intensives, we need a minimum of 6 weeks. I've seen it with my own son. And yeah, it's important that the hard and fast rule that we stick to is a minimum of 6 weeks. That's 2 intensive blocks between visits from any kiddo coming through to Napa. So when you're thinking about that, within that, that first third of 2027, you might think, okay, well, look, if I want to think about this across the year as a whole, remember that there's going to be a 6-week minimum gap between those intensives that your little one can be doing.
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. Clive, I'm going to shoot you a response on that one for your Medicaid question. But I will, you've messaged before. Yeah, all right. On the app, I'm wondering, but I'll catch you. I'll shoot you an email because I've got your info, so I'll send that your way. What times of day do intensives start and finish? Do we just specify AM or PM or more time specific? We are information hungry at Napa, so we like specifics. We actually have on that drop down, it'll give you, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and then 12:30, 1:30, 2:30. So you can actually give us specific times that you prefer to start. Now in the comment box, it's a little free form, right? You can give us more general information, more specific information. But yeah, there are options that you can start. We start as early as 8 in most places. In the US, we have a couple clinics that start at 7. So you'll see a 7 a.m. option, but not all clinics have a 7 a.m. option. So in Australia, they don't have a 7 a.m. option. In Austin, Texas, we don't have a 7 a.m., but your Boston clinic in Massachusetts does. So you can select 7 and you can select really any time. We'll do our best to meet that time, but we may not always be able to. David, do you guys have 7 a.m. currently? No, right?
Still drinking tea at that time, I'm afraid.
All right. Yeah. Hey, if I can get my hot coffee in.
Yeah, and just be conscious of the session layout itself. So when you, through your recommendations, you'll get the options or you'll get the sort of the overview of what your intensive program could look like. And that could be anywhere from a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, a 4 hour program. And then within that, we best understand whether your child has said takes a break or not. But how to think about them in terms of what the best start time would be. So that allows the program to run through the day, knowing that most likely the last program or the last intensive time will start at either 2 or probably 2:30 in the afternoon. So we can work around sort of between 8 and 2:30, 8 and 3:30 throughout the program. So just have a think about that when you're considering what life looks like as well. Do you have school drop off beforehand? Have you got other kids you're feeding? And that just gives us a much more broader guide of what the best case scenario will be. And as David said, we will try and work our hardest to make that work. And sometimes that can be looking at other dates to make sure that we get the best timing ready for your child as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot going into all of these. I love that. 1 week goal setting in Australia. RE question. 1 week goal setting in Australia. Iris, not sure what that one's for. So I'm going to do you have go ahead, Lou.
Oh, I guess that was similar to what we've answered before, that yes, just look at your goals, and 1 week will cover a smaller amount of goals, but certainly the same process happens before any intensive program, whether it's 1 week or 3 weeks, but obviously we can do a deeper dive and look at more things across a 3-week program.
Wicked. And I did see, Clive, you requested my email. I put mine, David's, and Lou's in the chat for you guys. If anyone wants to reach out with any specific questions, happy to do that too. Let's see. Oh, good. Mohisa, all right, you joined. Yes. Oh, yes, I have an email train with you. Yay. Hi. I'm so glad you were able to join this one. That's awesome. Okay, so you filled out forms for weekly sessions. Okay, I think, yes, I'll chat with you directly because I did see your registrations on there for 2026, but sounds like you're also interested in weeklies. So I'll follow up with you and our scheduler to make sure they get you guys booked up and ready to go. That's amazing, but I'm so glad you came on. That's awesome. I love that. Jose, let's see. Do you know if doctors orders intensive therapies as medically necessary? Does the 1 hour PT or 1 hour OT rule apply? So I'm assuming you're talking about the US. Yes, unfortunately, US insurance is very tough. Even if a doctor says, hey, I think they need 2 hours of PT in a day, it is very difficult to get US insurances to allow that second hour of PT or second hour of OT. Unfortunately, that's just like a base rule, and many of our insurance companies call it their multi-hour policy. And you can usually look it up on their website, and they'll give you like a detailed description of what it is. But generally, their multi-hour policy will deny anything past the single hour of PT, OT, and speech per day. And it is incredibly unfortunate, but also why we have kind of partnered with organizations like Support Now, who offer funding help, so that we can pull, grant information and crowdsourcing information and funding help, so we can kind of get those second hours covered for families when we can. That's a great question. Ooh, Iris, all right. Can we do more than 1 hour OT session in each intensive? I'm going to let that for you, Lou.
Absolutely. It will come down to the goals and the developmental profile of your child. So that's where, when you are completing your profile of your child in Ocean Friends, or you may have done it previously before we moved into Ocean Friends, you may have a intensive profile, and that will give all of us a bit of a guideline in terms of what your child may be working on or towards. So for programs that say may use the NeuroSuite, quite often we may have a physiotherapist and an occupational therapist involved in that anyway across a 2-hour block. But then, depending on your child's goals, they may also have an additional occupational therapy session that may be looking at slightly different goals. It may be looking at feeding, it might be looking at dressing, it might be looking at regulation and sensory spaces, or learning spaces. So it's really, depending on each child, there may be either 2 physiotherapists involved, there may be 2 occupational therapists involved. There may be a speech and feeding involved. So every child's program is going to be really individual to them. So yes, there's the potential there could be additional occupational therapy involvement in there. And that's what's really important, that when you're completing the profile of your child, that you give us as much information as possible in terms of areas where they're going really well, areas where they're needing more assistance in, and any reports that you can give us that give us a bit of a background about their potential diagnosis or just their general delays. And that gives our clinical team a lot more guidance in terms of what the team makeup is going to be that's going to best suit your child's current developmental needs.
Excellent. Fiona's got a question about, stem cell therapy at Duke. Yeah, we've gotten quite a few kiddos who have come to us after a stem cell treatment, not just at Duke, but kind of across. Now, in the past, and I'm not clinical, I'm entirely admin, so please forgive me, but we've really relied on the medical team to kind of give us direction. Now, most of our families try to get to us within the 6 months from doing it, just to make sure that we're kind of maximizing the benefit. And Lou and David, if you know anything else, please feel free to hop on that question. But I know a lot of our families have really tried to get in as soon as possible, but kind of up to 6 months after, to kind of capitalize on that treatment, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's there's families across the world that are going to different centers, and there's different setups. But I said, like, for anything that had a medical intervention, and stem cells would be one of them, we just love to have a little bit of background information about what they've been doing. If there is any advice from your local medical team, that's really helpful as well. But certainly, I think, as Sarah said, getting in soon after you've had those stem cells in particular is just a helpful thing. I don't think everyone really knows exactly how it works, but certainly it's a great combination to really give your child the best shot.
But I think, sorry, I was just going to say that, the guiding principle for us at NAPA, I believe, is the very important. It seems common sense, but everything is intended to be for the benefit of the child. And so, we need to make sure, when we're considering an intervention or an intensive block after an intervention such as that, making sure that is a timely intervention. And we don't want to rush things if there is any question about that being anything other than beneficial for the kiddo.
For sure. And there is a spot in that intake paperwork when you guys do get the link to it. There's a spot where you can put recent hospitalizations, surgeries. All of that information is very helpful to have for any treatments because our directors of rehab who review every single intake and create that custom individualized program for your kiddos that we mentioned, they take that into account and then they will flag with the scheduling team if something needs to be done sooner rather than later. So that is something that we look out for. So just make sure if you have that information, pop it into your intake because it is incredibly valuable for us to make sure, like David said, we are doing everything we can to give the best benefit to the kiddos. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Could you explain the how a 2-week session would look like? That's a good one. David, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably, I just got to be honest. I mean, we're principally set up for 3-week intensives. And so we are structured in that fashion. And that's across all of our clinics, to optimize outcomes for kids. Now, every child is different, of course, and we deal with a range of different conditions, but clinically we're led that the optimized outcome comes from a 3-week intensive. Now, we do have a couple of those 1-weekers interspersed through the year, where we have a slightly different focus. Sometimes they align with holidays and they become 4 days. Sometimes they're training opportunities. Recently, we had a big DMI session over in the UK during one of those 1-weekers. But really, it's the 3-week block led by clinical direction, or it's those 1-weekers that are interspersed 3-4 times across the year as a whole. We don't really have a 2-week option available. Sorry.
That's okay.
In Australia next year, we will have we've kind of arranged the schedule that there's some 1 weeks back to back to each other. There's which is a new for NAPA. So those 2-week programs are going to be possible. Just note though that because they are going to be structured as 1 week and then 1 week and they're backing onto each other, there may potentially be a change of team or time between those two weeks, but we can work across those goals. And it's a bit like, the 1 weeks will be able to look at a certain sector of your goals. The 2 weeks again will be expanded, and the 3 weeks are your gold standard where you can look a lot more across those developmental changes.
Love that. And then kind of what that session looks like, whether it's a week, 3 weeks for your kiddo, is all based on that intake paperwork and then any clarifying conversations we have with the director of rehab or anything. Because we do, again, individualize that program to every kiddo. It's not like a cookie cutter kind of process. So what your session looks like may look very different from another kiddo. If doing a 1 week, could we come in for evaluations a few weeks beforehand so that the 1 week could be used most efficiently? I love that. Yes, that is amazing. And that's all about just the clinic and you guys working together to find those eval spots a couple weeks ahead. So that way those are already done. But yes, ideally for those, at least in the US, for the 1 weekers, we try to avoid, if at all possible, doing evals because an eval is eating that time up that we could be using for kind of getting rolling on the 1 weeker. So yes, 100%. If you can come in, and in the US, we are able to do virtual evals if you're kind of in the state of your clinic. So if you're living in Texas and you're going to the Austin clinic, you can do a virtual and we can go through your insurance just like we normally would generally. So that's a US kind of oddity. David, Lou, I'm not sure if you guys do virtual evals ever. Ours is kind of funky.
Not so much, but we can certainly do as much as we can in terms of the first day information. So quite a lot of, a bit of the first day is obviously working with you as the parent, asking lots of questions, getting a bit of an extension on the medical background that you've already given us on the paperwork. So we can certainly do that. Some of the actual assessments and the measuring of the kids we'll have to do face-to-face, but we can certainly do a lot beforehand. What we do like sometimes is for some of our older kids, and we know that our kids are pretty bright. If you've got a little person or even a big person who doesn't like being talked about in front of, then definitely give us a call and see if we can have put on an additional hour with the team before the intensive starts. And quite often we can then really sit down and work with you as the parent in terms of the goals and also the areas that you have concerns about. And that means that a lot of that work can be done in advance so that we're not having big, hard conversations in front of the kids. So that's definitely an option if that sits with how that your kidlet works. And just contact your local admin team. We can definitely make that happen.
David, do you guys do virtual at all?
We haven't, and I think that, I mean, in some situations, and the thing is that, of course, every child is different. It's a phrase I use so often in the clinic, and there may be some cases where I can envisage, yeah, we could make that work. I think, the preference certainly is to make sure that we can do them face to face, for obvious reasons. I mean, Lou, you're alluding to making measurements, or making sure that we've got direct interface with the little ones for obvious reasons, to make sure that we can get so we can optimize that evaluation process. Having said that, in the UK certainly, and I'm not sure how this sits against the US versus Australia as well, but if we have UK families who may have evaluation paperwork from the National Health Service, for example, it may well be that that is something that we can work on, and that we can make use of for our purposes. Now, there are quite stringent, unashamedly stringent criteria for the evaluations that we want to use, because we're trying to do a best possible job. So we need to make sure that those NHS evaluations can match our requirements. But again, get in touch ahead of time, and given enough forewarning, then what we can do is we can coach you and your NHS therapist about the way that we can get that done. And so that could be done in that format as well, obviously just to help you. Again, it comes back to this point that we're here to help. We're here to make the process better, smoother, and so that we can just get those kids in and help and start helping.
Yes, and I think that's kind of a key thing, is there's quite a bit that we can kind of work around, adjust, make work. So communication is key, really reaching out early and reaching out with information. And these three people are fantastic people to get you, right? You've got me from the US, you've got David from the UK, and Lou for Australia. And we can generally answer all of those questions that come up, and we can help the clinic team kind of coordinate with you. But as early as we know about what you need, and as much as we know about what you need, it would be the most helpful. So communication is key for sure. Speaking of communication, Alex asked, can we have a call with someone to understand if an intensive is suitable before we sign up? Yes, Alex, we've got discovery sessions. Woo! So discovery sessions, they are an amazing feature. So you can have time with a therapist, and you guys can sit down and chat through. If you're local, you can get a tour of the clinic, which I think is also a good time. And you can bring your kiddo or not bring your kiddo, totally up to you. But if you are within traveling distance, definitely hop in. We can schedule those ahead of time. So just, we have got forms on all of our websites where you can schedule that. Now in the US, UK, you'll likely get me first. And then if I can chat you through kind of some general questions, and then we can always schedule something in the clinic. And then for Australia, there's a form you fill out, and then they'll get you scheduled directly in there as well. But yeah, you can definitely have tour the clinic. You can sit down and chat with a therapist, get an idea of what that would look like for you guys. And if you're not within traveling distance, we can do a phone call. Totally, absolutely. We love chatting with families. It's like one of our favorite things. It's really why we do what we do for families, for kids. It's amazing. So yeah, we'll happily chat you through it prior. Clive, I got you covered. I love this. This is fantastic. How can we know the cost of the intensive based on insurance and a number of sessions in a day? Yes. So, insurance. I'm assuming you're in the US, just because insurance is not a term I think that's very widely used in the UK, and then Australia, of course, has NDIS. So for the US, we need to have your insurance cards. So on that intake, there's going to be a spot at the bottom that gives us the insurance cards, and then we need your program. So in order to give you a cost and idea of what it would look like, you'll have to fill out that intake, include your insurance information, then we'll have to get recommendations from the director of rehab. Now, your insurance changes day to day based on what services you have had. So, right, your plan has your deductible, your out-of-pocket max, your copay, your coinsurance, and all of those, as you get services, right, hopefully get a little smaller in your deductible, get a little smaller in your out-of-pocket max. So how much you'll owe, it depends on like when you're coming to us in the year and what you've had due that time of year. So normally what I do when I kind of chat you through cost, and we could set up a time to chat, Cease, I think it's Cease. We can look at what your insurance is, and I can give you kind of, hey, worst case scenario, let's say you came to us January 1st and nothing has been met, what that's going to cost. Best case scenario, you've met your out-of-pocket max, this is what it's going to cost. And we can kind of chat through that Now, I do recommend you sign up for intensive prior to that because registration's starting on Monday and it may take us some time to get that information. But I highly recommend you sign up for it, and then we can kind of chat through that as you get an invitation too, is always helpful because then we know what time of year you're coming and we can get a better guess. But yes, insurance is a little tough. And again, that's not something we generally will like send you a cost because it varies. That's usually something that if you guys are interested, set up a time with me and I can hopefully walk you through it as best I can for any US clinic. David in the UK, you guys are all self-pay. And they have their fee schedule or private pay. They have their fee schedule on their website. And then Lou, of course, you guys have NDIS, you have Medicare, you have lots of different things and more information on the website there too. But yeah, feel free. I'm happy to reach out to you. And I'm just going to write you down along with Clive. So that way we can chat through what your info looks like. Oh, Clive, you had to do it. Yeah. Okay. How to make the most of scheduling intensive sessions when traveling and having to stay away from home. Lou and David, you have both done this as families. So do you guys want to take that one? Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a juggle, but there's actually a weird blessing sometimes of traveling to an intensive because it means that you are really focused on your family and what's going on in that space. Having done it both locally and with my daughter as well as traveling, I can tell you weirdly, traveling is a bit more of a holiday because trying to juggle real life in with the intensive is, it's a lot for a family. So the trick is like being really organized. I think having a chat with your local clinic manager in advance is really helpful. All of the clinics themselves have a bit of a Q&A on our website per location where there's some information about good places to stay, if there's transport options, and even things to do. We also recommend that we've got our different clinic-based family pages, and they're also a wealth of resources in terms of fun things to do in the area as well outside of the intensive itself. In terms of packing and getting ready for the intensive, every clinic itself will have, you'll get your own little locker box where you can keep things in for those 3-week periods. Be that, like anything to changing your kids, change of clothes, and all of the Napa clinics also have kitchens and parent lounges as well. So you'll be able to prep some meals and heat them up when you get to the clinics. All of those things can be really easy. If you are coming from interstate or organizing, have a look at your local grocery centers and things and see if there's any home delivery that you can get, or you can get things delivered to the Napa clinic, say on the Monday morning. Those things are really helpful in terms of just being able to kind of feel a little bit more in control and organized on the session. And a big hot tip is in the planning, making sure that you've got some good things for your kids to wear for the program. So leggings and t-shirts are really handy. And all of the gyms are technically shoe-free, so have some fancy socks. You'll see a lot of our therapists all wearing some very cool socks, and we love to get a bit of creativity with a good pair of socks for you and your kids. The kids doing the actual program themselves, bring along any of their sort of typical mobility equipment. If they do have walkers or particular wheelchairs, that's really helpful. And any of their supportive shoes. But we really at Napa do have a lot of things. So a lot of few phone calls is really helpful for us because we may have some things in the clinic that would be able to help, or you can help you, or you can borrow during those periods. So just really good comms with your local clinic manager is going to be really helpful in terms of that planning, and linking in with other parents on those chatbots. Facebook sites is also really helpful just to ask some local questions. There's some great families across the Napa network who are really useful in terms of advice and sometimes even be able to share equipment.
Yes, I love that. And you can find.
I'd agree with.
Sorry, go ahead, David.
Well, I was just going to say I agree with everything Lou said. I mean, we as a family we went to Boston, I think, on about 15 occasions. I genuinely lost count. And the things I'd just add to that is that you'll make friends. The parent lounge is probably almost, sometimes I say it's the most important room in the place, because that's where you're going to be making these friends, these connections, and also just ask people as well. In addition to all of that organization and that kind of stuff, chances are we could never carry, a chair across the Atlantic or whatever like this. A wheelchair, yes, but a separate sort of feeding chair or whatever like that. But we will loan them. right? And so certainly for families who are coming to the UK clinic, we've got, we haven't got hundreds of them, but we've got a couple of like structured chairs and such like, and we'd be delighted to, if we can loan you a piece of equipment for the 3 weeks that you're with us, that you take back to the apartment or whatever it may be like that. If we can do it, as I said earlier, if we can say yes, we will. And I've got very strong personal experience of being away from home and going to a clinic. I know that it can be tough. It can, I mean, to Lou's point, it can be brilliant, but it can also be tough. And it's yeah, and we're here to help. So if you've got any, reach out to those new friends and those connections that you can make, but also the clinic managers want to help. They really do.
Absolutely. And each clinic in Australia, you guys have a single, but each clinic in the US and then the UK clinic have the Napa Parent Facebook group. You should be able to find them on Facebook just by searching Napa Center Parents, then like the clinic name or Australia. Which is lovely. Now, I know we've only got a few minutes left, so I don't want you to get worried and panicked about your questions not being answered. I promise after the session is over, we will make sure to answer all those questions in the chat, which you still should have access to after. And then for those of you that we will reach out individually for any insurance questions or anything, we'll make sure to reach out. So we'll get as many as we can in that we can, but don't worry if we don't get to yours. We will get it to it today. If we're assigned NeuroSuit time, does that qualify for PT or OT or both? Lou, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so that could typically be both. So again, it depends on the child's goals. It runs across a 2-hour period. And so for many kids, they'll be working with an occupational therapist and a physiotherapist or physical therapist. But for depending on your child's goals, sometimes we may utilize 2 occupational therapists or 2 physiotherapists using that program. It'll be really dependent on your child's goals, a little bit on the scheduling, but definitely there'll be, hopefully a mix of therapy eyeballs across your child wearing the NeuroSuit.
I love that. Yeah. Cease, how many hours should you request? So your request, you can request, however many hours you think you need, but we will really rely on those recommendations from the director of rehab. Now, once you fill out your intake, it does take us a little while to get those recommendations to you, but they will generally include how many hours, what type of therapy, and any specialties they think should be included. And that's really what will stem from. If you have any questions or if you have something that's not on there that you're interested in, please just chat with your clinic again through that message tab or send an email. And these 3 people right here are fantastic people to send those emails to, and we can direct them to the right person. But I would say if you're really interested in a modality and it didn't get added to your recommendations, just, let us know, ask about it, and we'll either connect you with the DOR or answer the question if we've got notes on it. But yeah, we really go on the recommendations for sure. Hala, if a child has apraxia of speech, how many hours you reckon have to do a week? So again, here we're really going to rely on our directors of rehab and that intake paperwork that you fill out to make sure we can get the appropriate program. Every kiddo is different, and while we see a lot of the same diagnosis across the board, every kid is totally different, even if you've got the same diagnosis. So we tend to really focus on each kiddo versus just the diagnosis. So I'd say fill out that intake paperwork, and then we'll make sure we get that information to you and kind of what we think is best for your kiddo. D, can parents stay observe a session? Absolutely. Woohoo. Yeah, this one we highly encourage family participation. We find it really helps for the carryover. If you're able, feel free to be involved. Now, my 4-year-old will absolutely not work if I'm in the room. So in that case, your therapist may have a nice, gentle conversation with you, just letting you know, maybe we'll try it, without mom or dad in the room. Because, yeah, my 4-year-old would cling on me and not do anything whatsoever. So if your kiddo's like that, you might see. Go ahead, David. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to jump on the back of the comment and just say, look, that happens to me all of the time. And if that scenario sort of plays out, you are one of very, very many people whose child, often at the clinic, you'll see people sort of hiding behind bookshelves and what have you, like just peeking out because they want to keep an eye, but they must not be seen because this child will stop working. That can happen. But yeah, so pragmatism always wins the day, I think.
My favorite is the phone around the wall corner. Because then you like on the video recording? Yeah, that's my favorite. All right, let's see. Fiona, I think for that one, we'll rely on your medical team to give us any information because we want to make sure we're safe after, any kind of intervention that pops in. But that one I highly recommend. We can definitely chat through. If you haven't filled out the intake, fill out the intake and then just make sure you put that in the recent hospitalization surgeries. So that way we can kind of get that information directly from the DOR too. How much time do you recommend between daily OT sessions? Oh, that's an interesting one. I guess, Iris, are you talking about a break? Is that what we're talking about? And is it possible to have 2-hour sessions in one day or more? Yeah, we definitely have. Go ahead, Lou. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So programs might be able to run between, they may be an hour, they may be up to 4 hours a day at least, working across different disciplines. So yeah, absolutely, it's time to, we can definitely have those sessions. And then we'll work with you in terms of best understanding whether they can run back to back to each other or whether they may need an hour break between. We'll also really look closely at what those goals are that you're looking to work towards, and best understand sort of the age of the child and a few other things that may be going on around the diagnosis, whether fatigue's an issue or anything, so that we'll be really monitoring that. And then our clinical team will be able to give some advice of whether they think that running a program back to back is going to work really well, or whether we like to separate them out. And quite often we may have an occupational therapy session, then a speech therapy session, and then you might move into, say, a neurosit session where you're working with an OT and a physio. But what we like to do is pace the session really well around kids, to keep them interested, to keep them engaged, and to keep them active in their sessions.
I love that. All right. All right, everybody. That is the end of our fun webinar. Thank you so much for kind of sticking with us and all your amazing questions. These have been so fantastic to kind of run through, so helpful. And we really appreciate it. We will go ahead and answer the rest of those in the chat, so you can kind of keep an eye on your question. And I'll make sure as I answer them that we tag them. And Lou and David, I may tag you guys for any responses that pop up for UK or Australia specific. Now, keep in mind, David in the UK, it is very late, and Lou, it is very early for her. So they are off going to bed or to get in the car to travel to work likely. So if you don't get a response right away from them, if I tag them, just give them a little while. David likely till tomorrow, and then Lou a little bit. But we will try to get all those questions answered as soon as possible. We are having another webinar tomorrow. It is 5 p.m. US time, 8 a.m. Saturday for Australia, and then incredibly late for the UK. What is that? 11 p.m. I think, somewhere around there. So yeah, it will be all the same information, though likely different questions that pop in. Yeah, that's right. Ooh, that was a wild reaction. So true. But feel free to join if you like to there. And of course, both of them are recorded, so you can sign up for each, and then you'll get the recording for this one since you're in it. And then you can also register for the next one and get the recording as well. But again, you've got all our emails. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We are here for you guys. We want to make sure that this process and just NAPA overall is a smooth and pleasant experience for you guys, families entirely. So have a wonderful rest of your day or a wonderful evening in the UK, and we will chat with you soon. Thank you, everybody.
See you, everyone.
Bye.